time is now 9:51 and a quorum of the board is present. The State Board of Education meeting scheduled for May 12, 2026 is called to order. The first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda in order of priority. Are there any items that board members would like to add or delete from today's agenda? Ms. Schneider?
Mr. Chairman, I wish to move to amend the agenda to add a resolution on the right to conflict-free counsel for named board members in a pending lawsuit to item 5 to be voted on before closed session.
Support. There's support. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to read it into record. This is a resolution on the right to conflict-free counsel for named board members. Whereas a class action lawsuit is currently pending in the Michigan Court of Claims, naming among its defendants the members of the Michigan State Board of Education, including board member Nikki Snyder. Whereas the Office of the Michigan Attorney General has been authorized to provide legal representation to the named defendants in said litigation, including members of the Michigan State Board of Education, in their official capacities. Whereas notwithstanding the official capacity framing of the lawsuit, the participation of individual board members in closed sessions convened for the purpose of receiving legal advice and guidance regarding the defense of this litigation has created a category of confidential, privileged communications to which each participating board member is a party. Whereas the substance of those closed session communications, including legal strategy, assessments of liability, and guidance received from counsel cannot be publicly disclosed without waiving the attorney-client privilege and the Open Meetings Act protections that attach to those proceedings. And therefore, the specific nature of the conflict experienced by board member Snyder cannot be fully articulated in a public forum without itself causing legal harm to the board. Whereas it is precisely because the conflict at issue arises from and is substantiated by communications that are protected from public disclosure that the establishment of a wall of conflict, which is a formal ethical screen within the representation structure, is the appropriate and necessary mechanism for addressing it, as such a screen would allow the conflict to be managed with the attorney-client relationship without requiring its public disclosure. Whereas the existence of a non-public closed session-based conflict does not diminish the legitimacy or the legal necessity of addressing it. To the contrary, it heightens the need for a structural remedy that does not require a board member to choose between publicly disclosing privileged communications in order to justify a request for conflict protection or proceeding without the protection. Whereas board member Snyder made a formal written request entered into the public record on May 6, 2026, to the Office of Attorney General and to the Executive Officer of the Michigan State Board of Education, requesting the establishment of a wall of conflict or, in the alternative, the provision of separate independent counsel to represent her differentiated legal response to this litigation. Whereas the precedent established in Gary B., which arose from substantially similar facts and named substantially similar defendants, and in which the settlement was reached by the governor alone while other named defendants, including individual state board members, were not parties to the agreement, demonstrates that individual board members in this class of litigation do in practice occupy distinct legal positions that may diverge from the institutional posture of the body as a whole. Whereas the Michigan Rules of Professional Conduct, specifically MRPC 1.7, impose an independent obligation on attorneys representing multiple clients to identify conflicts of interest and to address them through informed consent, ethical screens, or a separate representation, irrespective of whether the clients are natural persons or governmental bodies acting in official capacities. Whereas this board is committed to the principles of governance accountability, the protection of individual constitutional rights, and the rule of law, and recognizes that those principles require that the professional responsibility concerns raised by board member Snyder be addressed through an appropriate structural remedy rather than dismissed on the grounds that such concerns cannot be publicly articulated in full. Whereas the Michigan State Board of Education finds it to be in the interest of sound governance, the integrity of the attorney-client relationship, and the fairness of the board's legal defense in this matter, to formally support board members Snyder's request for the establishment of a wall of conflict that addresses conflicts arising from, among other things, communications and circumstances that are protected from public disclosure by the virtue of closed session process. Therefore, be it resolved that the Michigan State Board of Education hereby formally supports the request of board member Nikki Snyder that the Office of the Michigan Attorney General establish a wall of conflict. a formal ethical screen to protect the individual legal interests of Board Member Snyder within the joint representation agreement in the above captioned litigation, including with respect to any conflicts arising from closed session communications, privileged legal advice received in those sessions, and any other matters that cannot be publicly disclosed without waiving applicable legal protections. And be it further resolved that the board specifically recognizes that the inability of Board Member Snyder to fully articulate in a public forum the nature of the conflict she has experienced does not constitute a waiver of or a failure to substantiate her request for conflict protection. Rather, it is the very fact that the conflict is rooted in protected, non-public communications that makes a wall of conflict the uniquely appropriate remedy. And the board formally calls upon the Office of the Attorney General to treat it as such. And be it further resolved that in the event the Office of the Attorney General determines that a wall of conflict cannot adequately address the conflicts present in this matter, including those arising from closed session communications, the Michigan State Board of Education supports the provision of separate independent legal counsel to represent Board Member Snyder's differentiating response in this litigation, consistent with the precedent of Gary v. Whitmer and applicable Michigan law. Be it further resolved that the attached formal request to the Office of the Michigan Attorney General setting forth the legal basis for and the specific terms of the conflict wall and separate representation requested by Board Member Snyder is hereby affirmed by the Michigan State Board of Education and shall be transmitted to the Office of the Attorney General, to the Executive Officer of the Michigan State Board of Education, and to all appropriate parties as a formal act of this board. And be it further resolved that this resolution and the attached formal request shall be entered into the official record of the Michigan State Board of Education as a matter of public record and shall be preserved in connection with the above referenced litigation. That is the resolution I'm presenting before the board to add to the agenda to vote on before we go into closed session. It speaks for itself. I'm not able to or am permitted to share the conflict that defines my request for a wall of conflict or separate representation.
Any discussion, Dr. Pugh?
A question of Board Member Snyder. The last whereas clause on the first page, Board Member Snyder, you say that you made a formal written request into public record on May 6, 2026 to the Office of Attorney General. Have there been a response that you've received from the AG's office?
I'm not able to discuss it further.
Well, if you received a response, that response should be within this resolution. And I'm sure that the
I'm not
seconder
able to
of this
discuss it
motion
further.
would want that listed in here before they would have seconded that motion.
I'm not able to discuss it further,
I don't know if there's any other.
but I can't.
Go ahead, Dr. Pugh.
And I've brought this up before, and maybe you don't know, and you may know that you bring up Gary B. There was a judge that questioned why you and Tom were able to get an attorney or get the representation of the AG's office. That has been corrected. As you know, in my unofficial capacity, I was asked to, I was told that I had to get my own attorney, and which I did. We should also note that there was a resolution that was passed during Gary B. v. Whitmer or Snyder that this board passed that stated, and where we stand now, is that we speak as one body. You can have your own opinion, but that is as an individual, and you should be speaking to your attorney or the AG's office as an individual, as I did, as you talk about precedent. The other piece that I will mention is that we did pass a resolution that wasn't even a month ago, that was just a few weeks ago, that stated how this board would speak as one body. And so I will definitely be voting no on this resolution that doesn't even give us the full information. You say that you sought guidance, and it's not even listed what that guidance was or the response.
So I'll say it
Go ahead,
again.
Ms.
I'm unfortunately, I cannot speak to the full information, and that I have to follow the law. And I wish I could speak to the full information, but I cannot.
So you're saying you cannot say whether or not you received a response from the AG's office because you said you were making it public.
So the response from the AG's office that you are referring to, I cannot speak to.
You referred to it, and you said you were making it
I
public.
did not refer to a response.
It's in the resolution.
I believe you asked me, did I receive a response? I can't speak to anything further. I've essentially been placed on a gag order. So I'm going to leave it at that.
You've been replaced on a gag order by and
I'm not going to refer. I am not going to speak any further.
Okay, Ms. Lipton, you have a comment?
Yes, just in terms of just reviewing the resolution as presented here, I just want to just make a few comments. In the first whereas clause, it refers to a class action lawsuit. A lawsuit has to be certified as a class action. You can't just call a lawsuit a class action because you speculate that in some point in the future it might be. So it has, to the best of my knowledge, when the last I checked on the website, it hasn't been certified to be a class action. So right now it is just a lawsuit currently pending in the Michigan Court of Claims. And then also in the first paragraph, it says naming among its defendants the Michigan State Board of Education and individual members. It really should be individual members in their official capacities, because when you name plaintiffs in a lawsuit, you have an option of naming people based on the different hats that they wear. So for example, you might sue a corporation and then also name particular individuals in the corporation. So in this case, again, looking at the case caption, we have all been sued. We've been named because that's a requirement. Anyway, it's a legal requirement, but we've been sued. None of us have been sued individually. So we've only been sued in our official capacities. So that's not stated in the first paragraph, but that's really important. And then in the fourth paragraph, it says, whereas the precedent established. Again, using the term precedent, that has a specific legal meaning. And so I read, what's available, publicly available in the case. And it was very, very case specific. So it's really not legally accurate to say that a precedent was established in that case. You can cite a case and then quote from it, but to cite it as precedent means that it's gone through a specific process, which that case didn't, because it was essentially settled before it was concluded. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the fifth paragraph, where it talks about the Michigan Rules of Professional Conduct 1.7, which I've read and also I'm bound by as a licensed attorney in Michigan. It is factually accurate to say that it requires that attorneys identify and address conflicts. It's not appropriate necessarily here, in my opinion, because again, the body was sued, people were named in their official capacities, and in this situation, there's a conflict of interest has to be presented.
There it is.
If, for example, if you could have a situation where someone has a conflict because they're being sued individually and in their professional capacity, but a conflict of interest, at least at this point in the case, just based on the pleadings, hasn't been laid out. So
And
it's not
can't.
really appropriate at this
Lipton
point
has the floor.
I mean, some point later, a conflict may, but, and you don't build a Chinese wall, if you will, or a conflict of interest wall on a speculative conflict of interest, particularly when someone is not being sued in their individual capacity. There's other things in here that are just factually wrong, but I don't want to go into each one in detail, but in any event, I think it's just a, I think this is a very problematic resolution, just based on some of the misstatements in here.
Ms. Schneider?
So just to be abundantly clear, I have a conflict of interest, but I cannot disclose it. That's the problem here.
Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, Ms. Evans?
No.
Lipton,
No.
McMillan,
Yes.
Pritchett,
No.
Pugh,
No.
No.
Yes.
nope, I apologize. Motion fails.
All right. Any other items that board members would like to add?
Mr. Chair, I move that we add a resolution opposing Michigan opt-in to the federal private school tax credit voucher program created under the Trump administration to the agenda.
Is there a second? Ms. Lipton, would you like to read the?
I will not. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. We can discuss the resolution if it makes it to the agenda. I don't want to belabor the moment. What I will say is that it has been made clear that Michigan voters have already decided this in two votes, 1970 and 2000, where 70% of voters rejected vouchers outright. Public resources should strengthen public schools. There are equity concerns that cannot be ignored with the proposed voucher system, or the voucher system that the federal government is trying to push down on states. And this is just about constitutional responsibility as well as public trust and a moral responsibility.
Any discussion? Further discussion? Okay. Don't see any. Ms. Evans, if you could take the vote, please.
Bullock,
Yes.
Lipton,
Yes.
McMillan,
No.
Pritchett,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Snyder.
No.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. May I please have a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Dr. Pritchett, second, Senator Bullock. Any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Evans, please take the vote.
Bullock,
Yes.
Lipton,
Yes.
McMillan,
No.
Pritchett, Pugh,
Yes.
Yes.
Snyder.
No.
Thank you. At this time, I'll ask Ms. Evans to introduce the members of the State Board of Education. I know Ms. Tilley is electronic right now.
Good morning. You have just been listening to Dr. Glenn Maleko, Chairperson of the State Board and State Superintendent. To his left around the table are Board President, Dr. Pamela Pugh from Saginaw, Board Co-Vice President, Ms. Ellen Cogan-Lipton from Huntington Woods, NASB Delegate, Dr. Mitchell Robinson from Okemos, Ms. Nikki Snyder, Mr. Corey Rosser, the 2025-26 Michigan Teacher of the Year, and Ms. Emma Young, the Deputy Director of Public Policy in the Governor's Office and Board ex officio. Now seated to my right is Mr. Tom McMillan from Oakland Township, Board Treasurer Mr. Marshall Bullock from Detroit, Board Secretary Dr. Judith Pritchett from Washington Township, and as Dr. Maleko stated, Board Co-Vice President Ms. Tiffany Tilley from West Bloomfield is joining us virtually today.
Thank you very much, Ms. Evans. Public participation, the public may register to provide comment during the public participation portion of the meeting at approximately 1 o'clock. I'm going to say approximately because we are going into a closed session prior in case we go over a little. Those wishing to make public comment must register before 1 p.m. To provide a public comment by telephone, please complete the registration form on the MDE webpage at michigan.gov/MDE. To provide public comment in person, please scan the QR code located on the stand outside the boardroom and complete the registration form. These instructions are also listed on the MDE webpage, michigan.gov/MDE. All right, we'll get started with the committee of the whole meeting. The first item on today's agenda is item A, presentation on Michigan's top 10 strategic education plan, goal number 3, improve health, safety, and wellness of all learners, school meals update and celebrations. This presentation will highlight Michigan school meals, the Michigan Meals Program feeds in Michigan children throughout the year. Welcome to our presenters, Dr. Diane Golzinski, Deputy Superintendent, Division of Business, Health, and Library Services, Dr. Deanne K. Kelleher, Director of Office of Nutrition Services, Ms. Mandy Sosnowski, Director of Food and Nutrition Services, Utica Community Schools, Ms. Mary Darton, Food Service Director, Jenison and Hudsonville Schools. This is an informational presentation. No action is required by the board. Thank you and welcome.
Good morning, Board. Thank you very much for having us. In the interest of time, we are going to primarily skip the data slides. You have them in front of you. You are welcome to ask us any questions that you have. But we're here to cover Goal 3 and talk about the Michigan School Meals Program, which has been serving meals since 2023. We'd like to cede our time to our guests to talk about the amazing way that they are serving kids every day using this program. Mandy?
Good morning. Good morning, Dr. Maleko, Dr. Pugh, and all the members of the Board of Education. Thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Mandy Sosnowski, and I am the Director of Food and Nutrition with Utica Community Schools. Okay, thank you. Great. All right, let me give you some background about UCS. We have a little over 25,000 students with about 41% free and reduced percentage, ranging from 41 to 44. Like a lot of Michigan districts, we actually have declining enrollment. We have 38 schools and are the second largest district in the state. Next slide. With the passing of Michigan school meals over the past 3 years, we can ensure that all students, regardless of family income, have access to nutritious meals. It reduces stigma associated with free or reduced meals and allows all students access to nutritious foods with some dignity, actually all dignity, for all of their peers. At UCS, we love to involve our community in our district, whether it's spreading the word about food assistance in their times of need, hosting wellness events to expose them to resources, or taste testing that introduce the community to what school food is really like and not just what they see on the media. Next slide. Because Michigan school meals help expand our reach to more students, we need to expand our menus. It's nutrition, right? We have to make sure they eat it first, because if they don't eat it, it's not nutrition. So taste testing is very important to help gauge what students like and what they will actually eat. And the students love being able to share what they think of new items. A few items we sampled this year are turkey ham and cheese breakfast sandwiches, beef brisket burnt ends, breakfast egg rolls, and cinnamon toast protein butter, and more. Nutrition and wellness education is essential to help build a strong and healthy community. Because of Michigan school meals, we are able to afford a registered dietitian. That's Vinny. He helped to bring nutrition education to our students through classroom talks, athletic team meetings, eating disorder training for our school counselors, and wellness fairs. He even wears the cow costume to help connect nutrition education in students in a funny way. And it's funny because he's 6'2", and he does that very well. He helps fill that role that we have that giant void now because SNAP nutrition education has been cut, so that really helps where we need it. We are very fortunate to have him. Next. At UCS, we also want to spread our wellness campaign outside our classrooms and into social media realms. Topics we may talk about, or we might debut new items, letting the public know about that. Local products and produce from our farmers. Proper fueling for our athletes. That's huge right now, especially since athletics is so important in our schools. And school meal program guidelines, as well as the difference between food served at home versus food served in the schools. Next. Now let's talk about that food. Did you know that our manufacturing partners have special formulated food just for our programs? This allows us to bring these fun versions of popular food to our students and still keep the USDA nutrition standards. So some of the food we have featured up there is our whole grain breaded chicken legs. This is a fun one. It's caramel apple yogurt nachos. So we actually use the apples as our chips. So that's fun. Kale and apple salad. I know, right? I swear it's good. Asian buildables filled with whole grain chicken nuggets and veggies. Hearty strawberry chocolate overnight oats, and that was actually a taste tested that we did with our kids, and we did that for National School Breakfast Week, which was great. And then healthy chicken shawarma rice bowls. We have also whole grain ramen noodle bowls, so we're right on that ramen kick, but we want to keep it whole grain and keep it healthy for our kids. Great way to put that forward. And then we've even done a chicken shawarma whole grain pasta bowl, which you see on the right-hand side. So this is just some of the food that we offer at our schools. In conclusion, Michigan Schools Meals put students first. It provides them with consistent access to balanced meals and improves childhood nutrition. It helps provide districts with resources that benefits all students, so no one falls through the cracks. It helps combat food insecurity and related health problems like obesity and malnutrition. We know that a hungry student cannot learn. This program reduces hunger, improves attendance, and decreases behavioral issues. From all of the food service directors, staff, and students in our state, thank you for your support of Michigan School Meals. Let us keep serving students nutrition and joy. Thank you.
Well, good morning. It's my turn, and I have to follow up Mandy Sosnowski. My name is Mary Darnton, and I'm the Food Service Director for Jenison Public Schools, Hudsonville Public Schools, and Hudsonville Christian Elementary Schools. Here are some of our numbers. We love to share numbers in Lunch Lady Land. I am a very proud lunch lady. I have about 13,000, between 13 and 14,000 students. I have 24 schools. We feed about 8,000 or a little more meals per day. My free and reduced percentage is right around 21%. So I'm here to talk to you today about what we get to do for our kids every day. It's not what we have to do, it's what we get to do. And many years ago, a very important person in my life, sitting to my left, Dr. Diane Golzinski, really talked to me about the whole child. She is the person who got into my ear about the whole child, and she changed my belief system. So in my schools, my team and I, you're going to hear me say we a lot. It's because none of us does this alone. So we have a core set of beliefs that guide our team. First, we put the child at the center of our decision making. We focus on the food on the plate, and we honor the hands that do the work. So I've got some pictures today. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do and why Michigan school meals are important to us. One of the things we love to do is the tray of the week, and you see some examples of our tray of the week. This is where we actually teach our kids throughout the year and all the time what good, healthy meals, complete meals look like. And these are the results of our teaching them. These are not staged photos. The only staging is the fact that we put it on a cafeteria table. You can see the gray behind it because we didn't want anybody to spill their food. These are actual plates put together by actual children. And we love to take pictures of them and put them on our social media and tell that student, you make a beautiful lunch. Look at all the fresh food. Look at the colors. Look at the textures. That is going to be so delicious today. And I will tell you, when you're excited about taking pictures of their food, they get very excited to eat it. So we do tray of the weeks at our elementary schools, at our secondary schools, and this is all about what our students are actually putting on their trays. So we're committed as we focus on food and think about this child at the center of our decision making. We've got some pictures. Up on the left is a giant vat of homemade ranch dressing because that's what we think is important to make sure we have fresh food for our kids. On the bottom center is a picture of our fruit and vegetable bars loaded with fresh fruits and vegetables, Michigan grown produce, great healthy options, colorfully laid out every single day. I'm really proud of the center top photo. It's bottled chocolate milk. It might not be the best picture in the world, but it's the best decision I've ever made in 29 years as a food service director. I made the switch this year from carton milk to bottled milk because my kids were not drinking enough milk. And I'll tell you, within 2 weeks, my milk consumption went up 35%. On the big picture of the asparagus, that's last May with our asparagus coming straight from the farm. It's about 800 pounds of asparagus. I mean, it's literally coming from the farm. It's still got the dirt from the fields on it so we can wash it up. We're getting ready for this May to come, but it's an example of what we do where we can buy produce from our farmers, have it delivered to school, or even pick it up ourselves. Can you give me my next one? Here's an example of what we're doing with our Michigan-grown produce and our focus on what our producers in Michigan make. If you didn't already know, Michigan has the second most diverse agriculture in the United States, and we celebrate that in our cafeterias. We have a program called Pop-Up Produce that we came up with when we were getting 10 cents a meal in our state budget funds. And so what we do with those funds is we would buy local produce according to the rules and the guidelines and the flexibilities that USDA and MDE have given us. So we do things like rainbow, those are watermelon radishes. In the upper left, it's kiwi berries. If you've never had a kiwi berry, friends, search it out in the fall. Grown here in Michigan, Mud Lake Farms in Hudsonville, we actually buy their entire harvest. We work with the farmer now, and she plants just for us. We've done celery root. We get fresh peppers all the time that we slice up and put out for the kids to take, put on sandwiches. Last year was rhubarb year. So rhubarb, it's out right now. It comes back in the fall. And we've exposed our kids to rhubarb. So pop-up produce is designed to pop up where it's fun to be at. Some things pop up at every school, like asparagus. Other things we may only get enough to pop up at a few schools. We make it a highlight. We let the kids try and taste without worry, and it just exposes them to more of what we produce in Michigan. We even go so far as to buy carrots from a local farm, Victory Farms. You've ever heard of Senator Victory? He owns a farm in Hudsonville. He's a major farm producer. We go and buy 50-pound bags of carrots from Senator's farm, and we shred them ourselves because they turn out better than pre-bought shredded carrots. Our cafeterias are classrooms. We are in the teaching and learning business. We are there to support what is happening in those classrooms. We turn our cafeteria into a classroom. We like to focus on where food will take them around the world. We like to tell them how good food fuels their bodies every month. So March is Nutrition Month, and it's also Reading Month. So we always like to work a component of reading into March as well. Up in the left-hand corner is one of my servers from Bauer Elementary School in Hudsonville, Michigan. That's Mrs. Trina Hernandez. And during Reading Month, they snapped her picture. She didn't know why. And all of a sudden, a giant poster appeared in the cafeteria of Trina on the moon with her whisk and spatula serving meals. We have a lot of fun when we do that. And when I say we're in classrooms, thank you. We also honor the hands that do the work. Now, I will admit, I did put a picture of myself in here because I got to read to a kindergarten classroom in March and I was in heaven. But we also focus on the professional development and honoring the hands that do the work every day. We take our teams to trainings. We make sure they're well-rounded. We make sure we train them many hours past what USDA requires for us because we want them to feel connected to their industry and what they do and understand the why, that children are important, and here is the why. And we also take the time to celebrate our kids and celebrate one another for our accomplishments. Those are all the pictures I have. I'd just like to leave you with a big thank you from school food service directors everywhere for supporting Michigan school meals and understanding that a well-fed child is going to be successful in the classroom and then go on to be successful in life. Thank you.
It all looks great, and I don't know, I'm kind of getting hungry now. I wonder if we should break early. Do I have the power as chair to do that? I thank you for the presentation. Just a comment too, from my time in the Dearborn Public Schools, It was the students that came to me, and so I love this test tasting you do, because they came and they said, we need healthier foods and tastier foods. And so it's great to see, and you're both so enthusiastic, and I appreciate that. So that's wonderful. You're putting students first by listening to them and taking their advice for the kind of meals that they would like. So awesome. Dr. Robinson?
First of all, thank you. That's a great presentation. Of all of the things that I think we've been able to accomplish as a board in collaboration, of course, with the legislature, this program is probably the thing that I'm the most proud of. So I have a sense of how much work it is in the trenches there for you with 24 and 15,000 students respectively. I try to make the meals at my house for 3 or 4 people, and I can't imagine 24,000. So thank you for everything that you're doing. The only question I have for you is, what do you need? What would help? Because this program, it sounds great. Things are going great in schools. I know people are very happy. Teachers are happy. Parents are happy. But what could you use from us, from the legislature, et cetera?
We need Michigan school meals codified so that our districts don't need to worry.
So we don't have to
Year
go
to
back
year,
every year and
right.
ask and.
Right, what else?
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'd like it codified. It is a dream come true to be able to feed every child for free and to clear barriers of access for them to participate so that they can get the nutrition they need. I would like it codified so that I can have a firm idea of a budget and to lead my team into what's next and to be bold and to make decisions and truly be able to put that child at the center of decision making, because I know that the funds will be there to do what we need to do to support them. And it's really important that that access is there, whether they participate or not. They need to know that someone is there to take care of them when they're at school.
I taught high school for 10 years, and for, I think, 9.9 of those years, I had lunch duty. So I spent a lot of time in cafeterias, and I just remember one of the saddest things was seeing kids that would go through the line and were supposed to get a free or reduced lunch, but the shame that they felt to have to show a card or show an ID or something led to a lot of kids going the day hungry. So I think that alone for me is what makes this make so much sense. And I think the analogy here is, if any one of the families that all of us go back to didn't know what we had to spend for the week or for the month or for the year, it would create a lot of uncertainty. So I think codifying it, putting it into the budget permanently would be a great move.
Yes, definitely seeing those students not have to worry. They can get in line with their friends,
Right.
get whatever they want, be able to eat and not have to worry about, am I going to have that embarrassment when I go up there? That is a huge thing for our students.
Senator Bullock? Thank you, Dr. Robinson.
Well, thank you for the presentation. I'm the super advocate for this, right? So my time in the legislature was spent advocating. But to address that, that was my first question, was going to be, what are we doing to get this permanently funded moving forward? Or how are we advocating? What are we doing with the legislature? But, instead of yearly negotiations and the stalemates that happen. The other thing is, so I'm a guy that grew up on the free lunch program, so I had my little card. I couldn't wait for Salisbury Steak. But with the stigma, what are we truly doing to universally market and promote that it's universal meals for all instead of just the kids who need it going in there to get lunch? What are we doing to truly make it normalized that this is a part of the school day?
And I know for us in our district, and I'm sure a lot of the districts around, we really try to, especially in our social media marketing campaigns, really talk about, come in, it's your favorite food, come try it, come see it. So really try to reach everybody. And I know for us too, trying to make sure that we have different types of meals for every kid. We have some kids that are picky eaters, right? They only eat little bits of things. So we have different meals that maybe appeal to them. We have other meals that maybe appeal to our athletes, no matter what. So we really try to market to everybody. We push it out on social media. We let everybody know, hey, all are welcome. Come on through. So.
parents to say, hey, get the kids
Everybody.
here early,
Yes.
make sure they get a good meal, all those things, because even, you know, just because folks look like they got it going on, we don't
Exactly.
know. The one thing we don't know is when people are hungry,
Exactly.
no matter what their status looks like.
People don't believe it's real. We hit the reset button every day. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Okay.
That's what we put out the welcome mat. I let my principals know there are no barriers. If you think there's a problem that that child can't get fed, guess what? We've removed those barriers. I make myself open to them for questions. I will meet with any parent. I will sit down and allay fears. I'll go to any open house. I will, you know, put myself out there to make sure people know. I will have phone conversations, whatever it takes to tell them I am here for you and your child when you need me. And so you may not participate every day, but when you're ready, we're here for you. And we just make sure that people always know that our door is open and that our arms are open for them.
So do we have like I know we do things district by district, but do we have like is there like a portion of that is like a implied mandatory marketing campaign throughout the entire state? Like everybody should be doing something that's universally accepted, and then the district can then take the rest of that and roll. So it shouldn't be, we, in our district, we do it this way. There should be something that is truly universal about the universal meals.
Well, the first way to do it is to actually make it happen. I'll just be honest, okay? I'm just gonna be honest. The first way to do it is to codify it, in my humble opinion. And then, knowing that and having that specificity, then that means that the message to everyone is, oh, if it's not gonna go away, I can really talk about it, because they're afraid of promising something that might be snatched back. That can, for everyone, that just feels, it's hard. So, you know, knowing that it's there and that it will become permanent, people are asking me right now, and I say, we've thrown our hat over the fence and we're gonna follow it. And I'm acting as if it's gonna happen. Act as if you have faith and faith shall be given to you. So that's what I'm doing. And I get to feed kids. That's what I'm here for. And when the big decisions happen and the good news comes, I will be shouting it from the rooftops for everywhere I can. And I'm sure that the state will be behind us. It's because they will be able to speak with one voice.
Again, thank you.
Okay. Oh, Ms. Lipton?
Thank you for a great presentation. I would just like to uplift a few other pieces. One of the things that I'm particularly excited about is that in your presentation, you definitely highlight nutrition, of course. But what I really like is that you highlight what I've become very excited about, which is the full-service community school model, where you've used food and nutrition as a way of building bridges with your greater community, whether it's your farmers, whether it is your food service, restaurateurs, whether it might be your 4-H clubs. You know, the notion that you have used food, which can oftentimes be a great bridge builder. They always say that how can you fight with someone if you are breaking bread with them? So from a conflict resolution theory, I love the fact that you are you're living really best practice. And I definitely like the idea of codifying it so that you don't have a situation of unpredictability, which is the worst thing for a child and a family, is to give them something and then unfortunately to have to take it away the following year. That's heartbreaking. So thank you for bringing in the community school model, which I think is a great model to replicate throughout the state.
Thank you.
Dr. Pugh?
And I ditto what has been said, agree with everything that has been said here. And Dr. Gozinski, you probably already know what I'm going to ask about. You all mentioned the 10-cent meal, and just again, continuing to talk about, first of all, how the health benefits of having fresh foods that come from farm directly to table, the health benefits of being able to support local families who happen to be farmers, and many of them low income, but also supporting our districts that are most in need. We lost that funding. If you could speak to that, I think we should continue to raise that up because that's a huge loss.
Thank you, Dr. Pugh. So as you noticed, in the FY '26 budget, we did lose 10 cents a meal, which was Section 31J of the State School Aid Act. Not to jump the gun with what I'm going to cover this afternoon, but it has been proposed in the House budget, but in the MDARD budget, not in the MDE budget or the State School Aid Act. So we'll talk about that a little bit, but there is some interest in potentially bringing it back. I think that it would be wonderful and critical, as you heard today, the connection, the ability to connect with the farmers, connect with the community, introduce the students to the local food, the new foods that they may not have seen before. Eons ago, when I was doing this work, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, we were teaching students about cantaloupe because they had never seen cantaloupe, right? And now we have food service directors teaching kids about kiwi berries, right? It's just, that's how far we've come because of that work. It's just critically important work. And 10 cents a meal, really no one loses. The farmer wins, the school wins, the student wins. It's just a win-win-win every direction.
Oh, yeah, I was on the rutabaga.
I was just gonna say the colors. The colors
Are
were
incredible.
beautiful. I saw that, and I caught the lettuce
Yes.
pun. Okay.
Think the lettuce fun, yeah.
Continue, yes.
Ryder?
Just to clarify, are you recommending that we codify free lunch for all or codify free lunch access for those who need it?
I'll answer for myself. I'd like everybody to be welcome under the tent. So I'm shooting for everybody because every kid who walks into my school is deserving of that dignity of a meal. And so I feel like that should include everybody. But again, I'm the purist. I'm that lunch lady. So I'd love everybody to be included because I believe that a child's family and the income coming into their house is not always reflective on what they're able to do and what they're able to do at their own table. And everyone has to make hard decisions. So the difference between an affluent family today and a family in crisis tomorrow is a heartbeat car accident. So that's kind of how I think of things. It's very macabre sometimes, but for me, all means all. So I'd love it to be everyone.
Is there a process, just to ask further based on what you just said, is there a process if something were to happen critically overnight that they could apply for free lunch?
Absolutely, they can apply for free lunch. The nice thing about things now is that they can come in first and foremost and get fed. We can take care of that first basic need, that they get fed. And my philosophy is we feed first and the paperwork will come.
Okay.
And I'll get that done. It's very important to still do that so we can get those whatever other resources come with that application to that child and that family.
Understood.
But we
Thank
like
you
to
for the
feed first.
clarification.
Yeah.
I would just say too that we came out early in January at MDE with the legislative priorities to codify the meals. We know it's in the governor's executive support budget, and we're seeing it in the House and in the Senate, but we don't necessarily have the FTE in the House budget, but we'll continue to work with the legislators to hopefully get it, across the board. So thank you so much. Appreciate the very
Thank you very
excellent
much.
and important presentation.
Thank you.
All right. The next item on the agenda is a presentation on artificial intelligence guidance resources overview. This presentation will provide an overview of recently released Michigan Department of Education's MD Artificial Intelligence AI guidance resources. The presentation will include what is artificial intelligence, AI literacy framework graphic, AI guidance resources, AI guidance, documents overview, AI implementation phases. We welcome Dr. Delsa Chapman, Deputy Superintendent, Division of Assessment, School Improvement and System Support, Ms. Cheryl Wilson, Computer Science Consultant, Office of Systems Evaluation and Technology. And I believe joining virtually, we have Ms. Gina Lovelace, Educational Manager, Office of Systems Evaluation and Technology. This is an informal presentation. No action is required by the board. Dr. Chapman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Maleko, and good morning, board. This is exciting for us today. Our focus will be an overview of the efforts and recent release of artificial intelligence guidance resources. As with all efforts and matters here at the department, the strategic education plan goals that align with our efforts around AI are noted here on the screen, and they are specifically goals 3, 4, and 5. As an overview, we would like to highlight that our sharing today will define artificial intelligence. So in essence, what is AI and its associated literacy? We will highlight the recently released MDE AI guidance resources, including an AI guidance document overview for districts and the general public, along with the MDE AI comprehensive guide for districts with user-friendly implementation phases. Cheryl will kickstart our discussion by defining artificial intelligence. Cheryl?
Artificial intelligence is a branch of computer science that builds machine-based systems guided by human objectives, which learn from data, analyze information, make predictions, and create new content. But even with this definition, many teachers understandably don't see AI as something they need to address in their classrooms. However, through a student's first lens, preparing students for the world they are entering means helping them understand the systems and information that increasingly shape their learning and future opportunities. When teaching and learning with AI, many in education have focused on using AI tools. But perhaps the more important shift is to rethink the conversation entirely. Instead of centering use on AI tools, districts should prioritize the ethical reasoning, critical evaluation, and computational thinking that students need to navigate and question the systems, information, and technologies that shape all learning. This emphasis supports a student's first commitment by ensuring every learner builds the foundational skills needed for future success. The MDE AI guidance intentionally includes national frameworks such as Teach AI, the AI Lit framework, and AI EDU as exemplars because they emphasize that AI literacy connects ethics, critical thinking, and interdisciplinary evaluation. Grounding our guidance in these frameworks reinforces a broader truth. Students need the ability to evaluate, question, and reason ethically across every subject, not only when they are using AI. This graphic from the AI Lit framework makes it clear that AI literacy is not a separate subject. It emerges from conversations already happening across ethics, computer science, media literacy, digital literacy, data science, and design thinking. When districts engage students in these broader disciplines, they are naturally building the critical thinking, questioning, evaluation, and ethical reasoning needed to understand and use AI well. It isn't a choice between teaching AI or focusing on these other areas. It's a combination of these areas that creates the meaningful and responsible AI literacy we want for students. Elsa?
Thanks, Cheryl. We are pleased to speak about the newly released suite of Michigan Department of Education Artificial Intelligence or AI guidance resources. As you see here on the screen, they are designed to support districts as they plan for, implement, and responsibly use AI in teaching, learning, and operations. These documents were developed to ensure they connect to valuable resources already in place and reflect both current practices, best practices that is, and Michigan's commitment to equitable student-centered learning. These resources are intended to assist districts at all stages of AI adoption, from early exploration to advanced implementation. They are also aligned with Michigan's broader goals of preparing students with the skills and knowledge necessary for emerging technologies and the evolving workforce. Districts are encouraged to review the documents, share them with leadership teams, and incorporate them into ongoing planning efforts. The first MDE AI guidance document we are highlighting is the MDE Artificial Intelligence Starter Guide, which is designed to help districts begin conversations about implementing AI through clear, human-led oversight. It was intentionally developed to support districts with limited capacity, offering a manageable entry point rather than an overwhelming lift. The guide includes a practical checklist for updating key district protocols, such as acceptable use policies, or what we refer to as AUPs, and procurement templates, while also pointing to Michigan specific professional learning resources. For districts that have already begun this work, or are ready to deepen their implementation, we also developed the AI Comprehensive Guide. Cheryl will now share the comprehensive guide, which has a phased implementation approach.
So the second document we are highlighting is the Comprehensive Guide for Districts. These essential practices echo the themes we discussed earlier with the AI Lit framework. They remind us that responsible AI implementation is grounded in the same ethics, critical thinking, and evaluation skills that strengthen student learning across all disciplines. At the same time, they highlight the practical work districts might consider, maintaining strong human oversight, protecting privacy and integrity, ensuring access, and updating foundational policies such as the acceptable use policies, procurement processes, and academic integrity guidelines. These practices are more than operational steps. They are opportunities to model the ethical reasoning, analytical habits, and transparency we want students to develop. By rooting implementation in continuous monitoring and thoughtful, legally compliant processes, districts create the conditions for meaningful AI literacy that extends far beyond tools and into everyday teaching and learning. To support districts in planning for AI implementation, we've organized the process into phases, each paired with a general timeline to help teams understand how the pieces fit together. This structure is meant to make the process manageable and adaptable, giving districts a clear progression while still allowing for local flexibility. Phase 0 offers districts an opportunity to organize and to listen to all stakeholders before moving into active implementation. During this phase, districts may choose to bring together a cross-functional team, explore how AI is already being used, and gather perspectives from educators, students, and families. This early focus on listening and collaboration can help districts form a clearer picture of their starting point and consider what approaches may be most appropriate for their AI implementation journey. In this phase, districts have access to several tools designed to help them understand their current AI landscape. These resources include self-assessment rubrics, inventories to map where AI is already being used, and example materials that can support early conversations about readiness and responsible implementation. One useful resource districts may want to consider in Phase 0 is the AI EDU District Readiness Rubric, which provides a structured way to reflect on early AI readiness with an easy 3-level scale, including Level 1, demonstrate commitment, Level 2, invest and implement, and Level 3, deepen and iterate. In Phase 1, districts may begin exploring the policies and guardrails that can support responsible AI use in the system. This phase offers an opportunity to review existing practices such as the AUPs, board policies, and MyKIP, or the Michigan Integrated Continuous Improvement Process Alignment, and consider where updates might help clarify expectations and strengthen human oversight. Districts might also choose to examine legal requirements such as FERPA, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, and other risk management frameworks to ensure AI remains safe and transparent. By approaching this phase as a chance to refine structures rather than overhaul them, districts can create a supportive foundation for the deeper instructional work that follows. Phase 2 focuses on supporting classroom practice by helping educators establish clear instructional guardrails and integrate an age-appropriate AI norms into daily teaching. This phase also emphasizes professional learning opportunities, including professional learning community engagement, to deepen staff understanding of AI literacy and responsible use. Districts will begin strengthening procurement processes during this phase by evaluating vendors through AI-specific due diligence practices. To support this work, we will highlight an example on the next slide. If we skip, why don't we go to the next one? Okay, there you go. Thank you. So this example comes from the Michigan K-12 AI Learning Alignment Framework, Computer Science, from the Michigan Department of Education, and it is the third of the 3 guidance documents. This example highlights how K-2 students can begin exploring on the foundational idea that AI models learn from data, using simple, age-appropriate activities that build curiosity and understanding. A key point here is that students do not need to use AI tools to learn about how AI works. Hands-on classification activities, pattern sorting, and conversations about how machines learn from examples can build authentic AI literacy at an early age. AI literacy grows from practices all teachers already use, such as critical thinking, comparing information, noticing patterns, and asking questions. The framework was designed as a professional learning community-friendly resource, helping educators across all content areas discuss how to bring these concepts into their own lessons in developmentally appropriate ways. Districts can use this tool to spark cross-disciplinary conversation, identify natural entry points into existing curriculum, and ensure that AI literacy is woven across grade levels, not treated as an isolated topic or limited to computer science classes. Phase 3 invites districts to begin moving from planning into thoughtful classroom implementation, while keeping communication and transparency at the center of the work. During this phase, teachers may start modeling responsible use of AI in instruction, sharing what they are trying, offering feedback on what is going well, and noting areas where additional support could be helpful. Districts may also choose to strengthen clear, accessible communication with families and communities so everyone has a shared understanding of how AI is being used to support student learning. This is also a stage where board action may become important as districts prepare policies, updates, and implementation models for consideration and potential adoption. Altogether, Phase 3 encourages districts to move from preparation towards practice in a supportive, collaborative way that builds trust and consistency as AI becomes more transparent and integrated part of the teaching and learning. And finally, in Phase 4, districts may begin engaging in thoughtful evaluation and reflection, inviting teams to look closely at what classroom AI integration is producing and where adjustments could strengthen teaching and learning. This phase encourages educators to revisit instructional practices, examine classroom evidence, and consider how well AI-supported strategies are meeting goals around accuracy, accessibility, and fairness. Districts may choose to use this stage to update their MyKIP entries, review transparency reports, and identify areas where additional clarity or support could benefit staff and families. This phase also provides an opportunity to refine policies or processes based on authentic classroom experiences and stakeholder feedback. Overall, Phase 4 supports continuous improvement and helps ensure that AI remains responsible, aligned, and responsive to the evolving needs of classrooms and communities. Elsa?
Thank you, Cheryl. So, moving forward, we will be sharing these documents far and wide. We are very excited and proud of what we've accomplished thus far. We have many in-state partners looking for this as well as sharing with our state partners. We will continue sharing learning opportunities for districts and staff. One that is being convening on June 1st is the AI in Media Literacy Leadership Collaborative. This specific offering will be held around the state in 12 ISDs in hopes that any educator in the state has a 2-hour or less block of time to learn more. In addition to this offering, there are many other offerings that other state partners are hosting as well. We actually, on last week, had a very extensive collaborative meeting with Michigan Virtual and look to strengthen that partnership as well. The MDE Educational Technology Unit will be offering a webinar series in May and June to further support districts with the implementation and use of the guidance documents, as well as answer district questions. We will also continue supporting districts and staff around the durable skills needed for students to be successful in future topics that will emerge. These durable skills include computational thinking, problem solving, communication and empathy, agility and growth mindset, collaboration and leadership, and last but certainly not least, creative innovation. Together, these efforts move us toward a statewide culture where every educator is equipped to integrate computer science and digital literacy, ensuring all Michigan students are prepared for their future. Because putting students first guides everything we do. We want to be able to say AI is here to stay. We do not want it to be AI, oh my. And with that, we conclude, and thank you for this opportunity today. Thank you, Dr. Maleko.
Dr. Chapman, Ms. Wilson, is there any comments or questions from the board? Ms. Lipton?
Thank you for the presentation, and I also want to thank you for really getting ahead of the curve. You know, this is something that AI in general is something that I don't think it's going to bode well for any school system by simply closing one's eyes and sort of hoping for the best. So I really do appreciate and applaud the decision to be very proactive on something that is really, in many respects, an unknowable sort of quantity. So talk about sort of building the airplane while it's being flown. So that's one thing that I really, really, really appreciate and applaud you on, because putting this together could not have been easy. And I have really sort of two questions. Number one, in the deployment of this, I think going through the ISDs is really, a really good use of the ISD as a way of sort of then filtering it back. And you mentioned that you have plans to present in 12 ISDs?
Yes. And so that will be a virtual convening so that as many individuals as possible would be able to. We didn't want to have a centralized location and that be a barrier. So we are approaching it in a variety of ways. Some of the gatherings will be in person, but we will be doing quite a bit virtually.
Do you contemplate sort of assessing, we'd like to think that, every district would just be clamoring for this information, but, I think to a certain extent we have to be realistic. There's, I think, going to be some unevenness in sort of the uptake of information, even presented in as, concise and precise a way as you have. Have you given any thoughts to, other ways of getting it into the hands of people that really need to know that this is there? I'm thinking superintendents, school board members, legislators, being able to deploy this sort of, you know, like rapidly?
Thank you for the question, Ms. Lipton. And so with our release to the field by way of a memo to the field, we also, through partnerships with Michigan Virtual and other partners, we're getting the word out. The first step was to take some ownership and embrace it as the state education agency to develop our own guidance. And now that we have the baseline guidance of the AI Starter Guide, that is for those districts that are still a little bit reluctant. We will be providing technical assistance and webinars, office hours, and the like for those that are still really embracing. But for those that have the work in place and are looking to advance, we also will be, through that AI comprehensive guide, providing additional technical assistance and professional learning opportunities to move them along as well. What we have been told is that many LEAs were hesitant and really wanted to make sure that they were on the right path by embracing and receiving from the department our guidance. And so now that we have put that out, we have received quite a bit of feedback saying, thank you, good guidance, we're ready to go. So we're excited about the opportunity to support and help move this along in our state.
And then just lastly, I know that the department has a student advisory committee. Any thoughts on sort of engaging the student advisory committee to be thought partners in terms of, you know, rapid deployment, or is that not something that wouldn't be necessarily helpful?
That would be very helpful. So I, along with Ms. Wilson and others, are happy to engage with the leaders in the department that work directly with our Student Advisory Council. And yes, their voice would be integral in this as well.
Thank you, really great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Bullock?
I too want to, it was outstanding. I applaud the intentional and thoughtful, proactive nature. I think it's slide 9 where we get to the 6 bullets. I think that is a balanced way of approaching how, what's the one up? Those are the 5 phases, but the one more. Yeah, that we do that, and just like the last group, universally. Like, so my thing is, how do we get to a universal, like, we got to find the balance, right, between that level of integrity and then hindering without the crutch of the algorithm crutching the kid from not, the students from not technically learning. So, like, who will approve the AI tools, or how many tools, like, will we have tools that stay within the realm of what we believe as a unit, that won't step outside of that guideline or that realm? And so, again, and I'm glad to see the word human-led oversight. So instead.
Thank you for that, Senator Bullock. So with the guidance coupled with professional learning, and we have several LEAs that, you know, they grab this by the horns, and they actually are modeling and will be working alongside us and engage with their peers and partners in the field when it comes to the different AI apps. We take it very seriously regarding FERPA, and as you state, we don't want the AI component to replace teaching and learning. So that balance will be discussed as we provide professional learning opportunities, technical assistance, and overall, just that opportunity to be collaborative as we move this forward and embrace it as a part of the learning process, but not to replace teaching and learning.
Yeah, because I second all of that. That Member Lipton was saying, like, how do we get more superintendents, more school board members, and everybody universally to at least get touched by the guidance, right? And that we're doing that universally throughout the state so that we're kind of all, we don't all have to be on the same page all the time, but if we're all operating out the same manual, we got something. You know what I mean?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McMillan?
Yeah, that kind of touches on something that I have concern about. I certainly use AI regularly and it's beneficial, but I asked AI, Gemini, who decides approved sources for AI, like for ChatGPT and Gemini, and it said AI companies, including researchers, engineers, and data curators, decide which sources to use. And so, I mean, that just, I use AI knowing that, but, in classrooms, which can be politicized or can be, people talk about critical thinking, but often it's critical thinking within the 3x5 card that you're allowed to think and not expanded. And we know there's a lot of experts that have been wrong, whether it was during COVID, whether it is, as I've brought up, whole language or look-say versus phonics, all kinds of different things. They used to say, it was all about low fat. Now we know it's low carb is much better, and focusing on that for health, and is high carb is a reason for the obesity in the U.S. And I can imagine, and maybe it's already there, AI in the future is going to be left-leaning, some will be right-leaning, some will be authoritative. It just could be, if there's humans deciding who the sources are, then there's going to be biases, like tremendously. So I guess, these are guidelines. I know that oftentimes guidelines get perceived as rules because administrators don't want to actually have debates that could be divisive or whatever. So, is there going to be any addressing the fact that that there's going to be biases in AI? It's going to happen. How do you overcome that and delve deeper? Sometimes if you ask AI, give me the alternative views and all this stuff, they'll search and find some. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's just one thing that I do have a concern about going forward. And I think government is always way behind. I don't know if they're out in front, but AI's been around a long time, and it's going to change tomorrow, and next year it's going to look different. And typically our guidelines, government guidelines, it takes a lot longer to update and based on. So I just wonder, is there in these guidelines, do you perceive any kind of not just talking about critical thinking, because oftentimes that again doesn't really mean critical thinking. It means thinking, asking questions within approved areas and not outside of those areas. So, how will students make it clear that there are biases in these AI and that you can get different results? They could be results that can be wrong, things like that.
So the purpose of the guidance, as we have here with the essential practices, we definitely want to help support districts and local school boards understand that putting guardrails in place, um, setting some limits, if you will, and helping the learner as well as the teacher understand what should be included or allowed in the AI space. And again, truly emphasizing that AI should not replace Michigan's content standards for teaching and learning. And so through board policy, because right now, there are some local education agency leaders and their boards looking for guidance, and through the guidance that we've put out for them, which will incorporate strong recommendation for incorporating FERPA. The guidelines that are chosen locally should be aligned to and based on the AI Comprehensive Guide, and very specifically the essential practices that we are asking them to consider.
Can I add one more thing?
Yes, you may. Mhm.
Also, the third document that was referenced it's kind of the alignment document with the current computer science standards. And part of that, like I'll just bring up in grade band, grades 6 through 8, it's talking about how can we already talk about like these standards reinforce evaluating AI properties and biases by showing how data quality, model design, and technology choices shape fairness and reliability. So if what we're doing is we're actually pointing them back, and this is where conversation should happen within the district. If we go back to the standards we already have, and then also this is just the computer science. There's also the digital literacy, I'm trying to find see in the circle here. We have the digital literacy standards and competencies that also do help support these, like the AI. So combination of them together, and then if we also bring that up in other content areas, this would allow students in other subject areas to address how is AI, yes, it is bias. How can we start to look at that and start to evaluate which should we be doing? So pulling back on those practices like media literacy that we've had for years, going back to our librarians and our media centers, I think they're going to be impactful for this as well. So we're trying to pull everybody together instead of just saying, you don't have any guidance. We actually do through our standards and our competencies we currently have. So just kind of building on those.
But also to confirm that we're a local control state, so, I mean, these are guidances, these are, I mean, they could decide at a local level, no, not at all, right? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, and I know this topic on my listening tour all over keeps coming up as well as an important topic so appreciate taking leadership and obviously recognizing safeguards and things, and I think having students involved is great. I know years ago they helped me with learning Instagram and other social media things, so we can definitely talk to them. But again, it's very important that we look at the biases and safeguard for students as well, so. Oh, Ms. Lipton, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I have one more question. One of the things that, and maybe I missed it, but in this area, there does seem to be a lot of concentrated wealth and capital, trying to sort of sell things to school districts, and I think that's always sort of an issue. When you have new technology, you've got certain corporate actors that are looking to sort of deploy that, into the schools. And maybe I missed it, but have you sort of thought through in your guidelines, how school districts are sort of a thoughtful way of how to assess all of this educational technology and help that is sort of being developed. And I guess to put it very bluntly, the massive sales job that we may see being deployed in our schools. Is that something that is important to be part of this framework? Just out of curiosity.
It is definitely important to be a part of the discussion. Cheryl, would you like to expound on that in terms of what we've been doing?
Yes, we intentionally built in, there are some frameworks and guidance, from other entities that is already kind of out there. I'm looking at like phase 2 that we have, and it kind of has a space where you can start to look at vendors. A district may have like a vendor questionnaire, and they start to look at some of that. So we do have some resources. It's like a rubric for AI tool evaluation in depth. So it is in there. So thank you for checking. Yes.
Thank you very much, appreciate
Thank
it. And we'll move on to the next one, and Dr. Chapman, I think you remain seated. The next item on the agenda is a presentation on the Office of Curriculum and Instruction. This presentation will provide an introduction of the office. which supports the top 10 strategic education plan. Goal 2, improve early literacy achievement. Goal 4, expand secondary learning opportunities for all students. And Goal 5, increase the percentage of all students who graduate from high school. The presentation will include OCI overview, OCI vision, goals, and supporting collaborative efforts. Dr. Delsa Chapman, and we also have Dr. Jen Saylor, Director, Office of Curriculum and Instruction. This is an informal presentation and no board action is needed. Dr. Chapman.
Thank you again, and good morning again, Dr. Maleko and board members. Today, we are sharing a presentation to introduce the Office of Curriculum and Instruction, or what we affectionately refer to as OCI. With me to present today is Jennifer Saylor, the newly appointed Director of OCI. Dr. Saylor previously served as the OCI Interim Director since the office opened in January under the leadership of our esteemed Dr. Sue C. Carnell. And she also was an Assistant Director in the Office of Educational Support since coming to the department in 2022. As an overview, our presentation will include the OCI vision, goals, support, and collaborative efforts, as well as what to expect when looking ahead to the future of the office. The work of the Office of Curriculum Instruction is definitely aligned to Michigan's top 10 strategic education plan in a number of ways, and staff participate in a variety of interdepartmental initiatives that support the strategic education plan goals. Namely, Goal 2, improve early literacy achievement, is part of the foundational work of OCI, most notably through the implementation of Michigan's K-12 literacy and dyslexia laws, as well as the administration of multiple literacy grants like Section 35M, the High Quality Instructional Materials Grant, Section 35A4, Instructional Coaches, 35A10, Letters, and 35N, our Read Innovation Grant. Goals 4 and 5 are also included at the heart of OCI's efforts with secondary learning supports that include the Michigan Merit Curriculum, K-12 coaching, secondary mathematics, social studies, and science, as well as innovative learning opportunities, including personal curriculum, advanced placement, and international baccalaureate programs. I know this is tiny to see, so we'll guide through this very quickly. From an organizational structure perspective, the Office of Curriculum and Instruction is part of the Division of Assessment, School Improvement, and System Support, and makes up the now fourth office within the division. Building on a foundation within the Office of Educational Supports, OCI includes 2 units. The Educational Experiences Unit, which includes mathematics, social studies, and science content areas, and the innovative programs and initiatives previously mentioned as aligned to the Strategic Education Plan goals, as well as the Phenomenal Literacy Unit, which serves as the hub of literacy teaching and learning in Michigan. And now to provide additional details about the work of OCI is Dr. Jen Saylor.
Thank you, Dr. Chapman, and good morning, board members. As Dr. Chapman mentioned, the work of the Office of Curriculum and Instruction is dedicated to teaching and learning throughout the state. And our mission is to put students first through engaging, effective, and equitable learning experiences. And we do this by providing support to local education agencies and educators to ensure each of Michigan's students have access to high quality, evidence-based, and innovative learning opportunities. As Dr. Chapman shared previously, OCI includes the Education Experiences and Literacy Units. Together, these 2 units support the state on a range of issues, including academic content standards and expectations, graduation requirements, research-based instructional methods, and curriculum resources, and equitable educational experiences to support teaching and learning. And most importantly, OCI is committed to ensuring students remain at the heart of all educational decisions and actions through partnerships with educators, administrators, educational organizations, and institutes of higher education. The graphic on this slide shows a visual representation of OCI's vision for the why, what, and how of our work. The innermost portion of the graphic demonstrates the OCI why, which is to ensure students are first in everything we do. Grounded in the instructional coherence framework, which we will explain further in the upcoming slides, the middle ring depicts the what OCI does to set goals, make decisions, and take action in support of student learning. And finally, the outermost ring indicates how we approach the work we do, calling on connections, collaboration, communication, collective responsibility, and coherence. And now I'll turn the presentation back over to Dr. Chapman to provide an overview of her vision for instructional coherence as the framework for the office.
Thank you. As Dr. Saylor mentioned, instructional coherence serves as a framework that guides the goals and direction for the Office of Curriculum and Instruction, which is aligned to similar work being done in other states and a focus of the Council of Chief State School Officers, or CCSSO, Chief Academic Officer, Chief State School Officer Collaborative. Focusing on students first, the goal of the instructional coherence framework is to ensure students experience a seamless learning experience throughout their school day, across all grade levels, and in all content areas. Using the three-legged stool analogy, instructional coherence is only possible when all three legs are fully functioning. This includes having a shared goal, curriculum, instruction, and assessment balancing the middle of the stool, and very importantly, having systems coordination. All three are integral to effective teaching and learning. The shared goal component of the framework ensures that all support, whether in class and in intervention, blocks, or outside the school day, aims to prepare students for success with grade level work within their core classes. Additionally, Michigan has expanded the focus of the second component of the framework beyond quality materials to include instruction and assessment, which leads to a balanced assessment system, which is needed to accomplish all goals. And finally, CCSSO provides a focus on professional learning as a critical system, and the department has expanded the concept of coordination to ensure multiple systems are considered to support the two previously mentioned components, which Dr. Saylor will describe in more detail now.
Thank you, Dr. Chapman. As we consider the importance of instructional coherence to student learning experiences, I will share examples of how the work of the Office of Curriculum and Instruction and the work across the department is aligned to each leg of the stool. I think, maybe go back.
Yeah.
Yes, you can leave it right there. Okay. First, I'll share an example from a familiar topic, the K-12 literacy and dyslexia laws. Section 1, Sentence 1 of the law identifies a shared goal. The department shall do all of the following to help ensure more pupils will achieve a score of at least proficient in English language arts on the grade 3 state assessment. From there, each remaining leg of the stool is addressed. Curriculum is addressed in Section 5, which requires the department to publish a list of evidence-based, class-wide elementary reading curricula and materials, which we have done as required by January 1st of this past January. Assessment is addressed in Section 4, which requires the department to provide a list of approved, valid, and reliable screening and progress monitoring reading assessments. And finally, instruction is addressed in Section 23, which includes explicit requirements for evidence-based instructional methods and multi-tiered systems of support. And it goes into detail within that section, specifically prohibiting strategies such as guessing based on illustrations, skipping words, etc. Together, these curriculum, instruction, and assessment requirements create a cohesive, evidence-based foundation grounded in the science of reading. And finally, the law emphasizes the importance of professional learning and staffing as essential systems. Districts must provide assurances and plans demonstrating they are positioned to ensure that more pupils will achieve a score of at least proficient in English language arts on the grade 3 state assessment. With that very specific example in mind, I'll zoom out for a moment to share a perspective of OCI's broader shared goal, which is represented in Michigan's profile of a graduate, with the expectation that Michigan students have the ability to communicate effectively with a variety of audiences, collaborate with others to reach a shared goal, use argument and reason to do research, construct arguments, and critique the reasoning of others, use technology and tools strategically in learning and communicating, problem solve, construct explanations, and design creative and innovative solutions. The profile includes characteristics of career and college-ready students that are evident within all academic standards, including those in the arts and the career and technical education career-ready practices. Students obtain these skills through instruction that includes real-world challenges, cross-content integration, relevancy to students' lives, and transfer of knowledge. For the second leg of the instructional coherence stool, OCI has a strong focus on curriculum, instruction, and assessments. Curriculum, or what is taught, includes academic standards and content expectations and criteria for high-quality instructional materials rooted in evidence. Instruction, or how students learn, is based on the science of learning, depths of knowledge, cognitive science, instructional strategies, each of which also require a strong evidence base to ensure effectiveness. And finally, assessments serve as evidence of learning and include alignment to academic standards, serve a clear purpose, and provide data to inform both curriculum and instructional decisions. And finally, the third leg of the stool emphasizes the importance of systems coordination to support the previous two legs. Systems like staffing, scheduling, funding, programming, professional learning, and operations are all essential considerations to ensure students have access to engaging, effective, and equitable learning experiences. So with these broader definitions in the instructional coherence framework serving as a backdrop, I'll briefly share a few more examples of the work of our office in the next few slides. So this slide is the example that we just looked at with the K-12 literacy and dyslexia law. So you see how one of the shared goals is students communicating effectively through reading, listening, writing, and speaking. The curriculum and assessment was addressed, as I shared, through instructional methods, which include explicit systematic literacy instruction. And important systems that need to be coordinated within the laws are staffing and professional learning, as I mentioned previously. And you'll notice the arrow along the bottom, which illustrates the guidance provided by MDE to support LEAs in their local context and within local policies in each component of the framework. A second example supports students in using argument and reason to do research, construct arguments, and critique the reasoning of others. This example is addressed in the curriculum in the second grade social studies content expectations focused on market economy. This specific standards requires students to utilize a decision-making process to analyze the benefits and costs of a personal decision. To achieve this shared goal and provide students access to this content expectation requires strong systems, coordination with things like scheduling and funding to ensure consistency and access across classrooms and grade levels, as well as opportunities to access primary sources, take field trips, and engage in community activities to provide new experiences and reinforce learning. And the third and final example illustrates a focus on the shared goal for students to use technology and tools strategically in learning and communicating. In this example, the assessment is a graphic design portfolio, which relies heavily on programming to ensure access to dual enrollment or early and middle college while monitoring and supporting operations like transportation and meals to support the whole child. So through these examples, it is evidence that strong coordination within local context, coupled with the guidance and support from MDE, enhances students' opportunities for success.
As we close today, we would like to share what's to come when looking ahead to the future of the Office of Curriculum and Instruction. Within the next few months, the office will work collaboratively to review the profile of a graduate to ensure it serves as a common shared goal within OCI and across the department. And obviously, we want it to be utilized and embraced by the field. Develop a statewide mathematics framework that is rooted in the instructional coherence framework to ensure students have access to seamless mathematics instruction across classrooms and grade levels statewide. Continue with the ongoing implementation of the K-12 literacy and dyslexia laws, or PA 146 of 2024, to support all LEAs in meeting the requirements of the law. Support continued efforts towards letters implementation progress and momentum. Expand the ever growing reach and supports for social studies and science instruction. And last but certainly not least, continue to support and grow innovative learning options with flexibility here in this great state of Michigan. So with that said, we appreciate the opportunity to share with you the great work that is occurring in our new office, the Office of Curriculum and Instruction. And back to you, Dr. Maleko.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chapman, Dr. Saylor. Board members, any comments or questions? Ms. Lipton?
Thank you so much. I think this is a really, really exciting opportunity. And just again, kudos to you for being proactive and really emphasizing not just, the collaborative nature of learning, but also cohesive and alignment. I really, really appreciate that. One of the questions I have on the looking ahead slide, what are your thoughts on just very basically the department's staffing and the ability to, I mean, that's a very, very robust, aspirational slide, which I love. But one of the things that I'm thinking about is, how do you all realistically, do you feel like you have enough capacity in the department? I mean, I know I've asked this question before because I think it's something that people just sort of magically think that these things happen, but it takes time and talent to do this. So let's do like a wellness check. What are we thinking in terms of staff capacity?
Strengthening capacity in all organizations is always a benefit. Currently, we are fortunate to have dedicated staff that are willing to move forward and complete work as deemed necessary. And so we realize that our looking ahead is robust, but we are in it to win it, if you will. And we're putting our best foot forward with the current staffing that we have.
Okay.
And I'll just mention too, since I'm now 5+ months here in this position, I do not see we could use more staffing in the department. It's already evident to me. So we got to work with the legislatures to hope we don't get any cuts and proposals of that as we want to take leadership. So I appreciate, but again, people work hard and they're going to do what is necessary to lead. So
Yep.
Appreciate the question and the response, Dr. Chapman, too.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank
it
you.
very much. All right, the next we have on the agenda is the presentation of the Michigan Teacher of the Year. We once again welcome Mr. Corey Rosser, 2025-26 Michigan Teacher of the Year, Social Studies teacher, Quest High School, North Branch Area Schools, and Miss Susan Kelsey Bruton, 2025-26 Region 10 Regional Teacher Science Teacher, Hope Academy, Detroit. This is a informational presentation and no action is required by the board. Welcome.
Thank you for having us. Before we get started, before I introduce Susan, just wanted to congratulate Dr. Robinson on his recent retirement. I believe if through conversation, if I've added it correctly, he's had 33 years of service in education. 45, so my math's off.
Oh,
I am a
wow.
social studies teacher, so, so maybe I missed parts of the conversation.
Let's give him a
but,
big round of applause.
So I'd love to introduce Susie Kelsey Bruton, and I'm going to go ahead and let Susan actually do that herself.
So good morning, and thank you for having me today. I am Susan Kelsey Bruton. I am a 45-plus year veteran in education. That includes 10 years of preschool and 35 years teaching in the elementary classroom, elementary and middle school. And I'm from Detroit, longtime native Detroiter, and happy to be here to present to you today.
So just to talk about our school demographics a little bit, as you guys well know by now, my school has around 2,400 students. My alternative ed specifically usually carries between 50 and 55. We draw from a large demographic district. We are a rural farming community, fairly homogeneous. And when I went down to Detroit, Hope Academy was one of the first schools I visited. It was probably one of my most positive experiences. Susan had set up a 6th and 7th grader to give me a tour. And the part that I loved most about it was completely led by students. And they were extremely nervous, but they did an amazing job. And so it was fantastic that even through a visit like that, Susan set up an opportunity for students to lead and be at the center of what we were doing. And so just a fantastic school. Culture was amazing. And you could really tell that the students there cared about the teachers there cared about every student. Go ahead, Susan.
So I'm going to talk about restorative practices today. At Hope Academy, I've been an educator there for 11 plus years now. And that was when I really learned about restorative practices. So even though I had been teaching for many years before I got there, I taught in African Center School, Aisha Shule, for 21 plus years. And then I kind of moved around, and it took me some time to find a school that I could call home. And that was Hope Academy in Detroit, Michigan. And so I had to develop this community. I had developed a community at Aisha Shule, but now that I was at a new school, I had to develop a new relationship with these students and families. And so restorative practices was something that I was taught from day one at Hope Academy. And it's truly important that you develop that school climate, that positive school culture, that classroom culture. And that's something that restorative practices does. So what is restorative practices? It's just that. It builds relationships. It allows you to resolve conflict. It increases dialogue among students. And all of the things that you need to have a successful classroom community and to have good positive classroom management are the tenets of restorative practices. And so it was something that was easy for me to adopt because, as I said before, I have a preschool background. I taught Head Start for 10 years, and that's something that we start the day with, a circle, right? We have circle time. And so that's a natural way to build community amongst those children. And so the idea of restorative practices based on unity, harmony, and restoring harm was something that was appealing to me. And so, you want to go to the next slide? So it talks about the benefits of restorative practices. So all of those things, there's a positive impact. There's a sense of belonging that is something that you need to develop among your students. The thing that I really like about this is the fact that it creates a brave space. So sometimes we say a safe space. Places should be safe, right? Schools should be safe. But it's a little different to have a brave space because that means that students are not afraid to speak out. They're able to lend their voice. They feel that they can be heard and they can be seen. And that's important, especially today. It's very important that students know that they're seen and they can be heard. And so they gain the ability through consistent repetition and using these learning circles and these tenets of restorative practices over and over again, the students become comfortable and then they feel that they can share. So it becomes a brave space for them. And that's really important in terms of them even addressing conflict or even addressing a teacher in terms of something that they disagree with. There's a way, this is what I say to them, there's a way to talk to adults, right? And they have to be brave enough and courageous enough to speak up and lend their voice. So these are some of the benefits. They're academic, they're social, they're emotional. Someone mentioned the whole child earlier. They apply to the whole child. And that's what is appealing to me about restorative practices. So one of the fundamental principles of restorative practices, we call it the social discipline window. And when I learned about it, we use the term the fundamental hypothesis of restorative practices. And since I'm a science teacher, this is something that was appealing to me. So the fundamental hypothesis of restorative practices is that human beings are happier, more cooperative, and more likely to make positive changes when those in authority do things with them, not to them or for them. And then you see on the continuum, you also see not. So when you're not supporting students, that's neglectful. And so that's almost the opposite end of the continuum. So we want to do things with students, and even things that we might think that are insignificant, from all the way from students learning, students direct instruction, helping students to understand content, but mitigating conflict as well. We want to do that with them. We don't want to do it for them, because then they can learn to do it for themselves. And that's the goal of education, that they learn to use the things that we teach them. So these are some of the areas that we talked about. I've done some training and along with Corey and some of the other regional teachers of the year. We've gone to some of the universities and we've talked to future teachers, and I talked to them about restorative practices. And it's going to look different in every classroom. So in the preschool classroom, you might be talking about things like taking a toy away from a student. But in a middle school classroom where I teach, we're talking about other things like students doing homework or students engaging in conflict with other students. And so how do we do that using the social discipline window? Well, we want to help them understand. We want to work with them, together with them, so that they can figure out how to resolve that conflict. We don't want to resolve it for them, because when they get in that situation the next time, then they can't resolve it for themselves. And we definitely don't want to be punitive, because they're young adults, they're growing, they're learning and they're growing, and they have to learn how to mitigate conflict. And so if we work with them to help them, as opposed to doing something to them right away, being punitive, um, being neglectful, not addressing it at all. We know as human beings, sometimes it's easier to just not do something when we're uncomfortable with it. So we want students to address conflict head on, but to give them positive um, practices and ways for them to do so. So another important part of restorative practices, and when we get to the next slide, we'll talk about this continuum, because as I said before, sometimes we might talk about something that's very minimal. From a student speaking out in class, just something that we might consider is not worth the students being suspended over, or we're not going to expel a student for those kind of things, but they actually interfere with instruction. So how do we handle those type of situations, all the way from the minimal to the more serious situations when we're talking about expulsion or suspension? And one of the things that we need to do is use this fair process. And so we know that students, especially those students in my age group, middle school students, they're all about fairness, and they want to make sure that whatever you're doing with them is fair, and they can understand and they can accept the discipline if they feel that it's been rendered fairly. So one of the things that we have to do is make sure we're engaging all parties in fair process. So a student is accused of doing something, well, we need to talk to that student, we need to talk to the accuser, and are there other students that are a part of the scenario that we need to talk to? We need to look at all parties and not just listen to what one child is saying and then render judgment based on that one thing. We need to explain what is the decision that was made and why was it made. And then we need to have expectation clarity. This is very important, and this can be used even in regular instruction. We need to be clear about what we're asking students to do, and especially when there's been a conflict and we're trying to reintroduce them back into the classroom, what is expected of them going forward. It's important that we make sure that they understand what their expectations are. So this is the continuum that I talked about. I like to use the affective statements with students, and I have to train myself, and I tell other educators that a lot of times when something happens, we tend to say, why did you do that? That might be the first thing we say to students. Why did you do that? But when we say why, we're implying that they did, and we're not giving them the opportunity to express their side or their perspective of what happened. So instead of saying, why did we do something, I train myself to say how I feel and how their actions impacted me. So I would say, I would give an affective statement similar to, I felt sad when you called me out of my name because it made me feel that you didn't respect me. So the students understand my feelings, how I felt about it. They could see their action in the scenario, and then they knew what my feelings were about the situation. And when you get into the practice of saying those things to the students, they can see how their actions impact you and other people. So affective questions, some of those things like when we say, instead of saying, why did you do that? What happened? We might say, what happened to a student? And then they have a chance to explain. We might say, how do you feel your actions impacted others? Sometimes they don't think about how their actions impact others because they're very self-centered a lot of times at that age. So we use these questions to try to get to the root causes, and that's one of those basic, one of the benefits of restorative practice is to find out why things are happening without saying, why did that happen? We want to find out what the root cause to their behavior is, right? And so we do these circles. I talked about that. We do them all the time on a consistent basis, just checking in. How are you today? How was your weekend? What are you looking forward to? We can check out when they get ready to go. And that's all building community within the classroom. And then, let's see, let's go on to the next slide. And so that's what this is demonstrating, these circles. We can use them in a variety of ways. They're not just problem-solving strategies. We use them for academics. Did the students obtain the content that we focus on for the day? So we can ask questions that are academic in nature. When a student has had a conflict, we can talk about, you know, what the expectations are and how maybe their actions affected the group or the class. And we can have that discussion within circles. And then we can solve problems within circles. There's so many ways that we can implement these circles that are restorative. And they're very, they resonate with me because when we talk about circles, we're talking about community, right? We're talking about unity. We're talking about harmony. And when the circle is broken, what do we need to do? We need to repair that in order to restore the harmony within classrooms. So all of these things are tenets of restorative practices, and that's why I advocate for them. So in this slide, this was a slide when I went to, so I think I said I work at Hope Academy, which is a public school academy, and it's a charter school. And so during charter school day, when we learned that Mr. Rosser was the teacher of the year, we took a group of students to Lansing to charter school day. And these are some of the students, along with the teacher that, with the principal that nominated me as the teacher of the year. And these are some of my students that many of them have gone on to high school, but they come back. Just one of the young lady in the front came back yesterday, and she gave me a big hug, and she told me about how she was doing in school. And that is what restorative practices is all about, making sure that you have these lifelong relationships that you build with students. So when they leave you, they come back and they remember you and they appreciate you. And even maybe you had some conflict in class, but when they get to the other side, as we say, they see, you know, what you really did and what you tried to do for them and how you care for them. And that's why it's important, building those relationships and using those restorative practices to do so is so important. So this is just a little quote. Marimba Ani, she wrote a book entitled Let the Circle Be Unbroken. And that is something that you have to continually maintain to make sure that the circle does not remain unbroken. It can be severed, It can be broken, and that's what restorative practices is a way to repair the harm when it occurs, and how to restore the unity and the harmony that once existed.
So North Branch uses some restorative practices as well. Again, rather than go through each point, the thing I'd like to highlight about our district is there is a process set in place. So it's something that all staff are aware of. You know, I think that when you have great educators like Susan, who are just naturally have magnetic personalities, it's much easier because it's built into who she is. And so when she reads a book about restorative practices, it all makes perfect sense because it's just who she is on a daily basis with her students. But it's not always innate in everybody and every teacher. And so I think when you have a tiered system where you have practices that that are known and are part of a set process, you're going to get the best results. And so again, we have different behavior management. Through our tiers, we handle behavior management in those different ways through our elementary and middle school. But again, it's the process, even schools that might be slightly different, is to have a process understood by staff and understood by students so they can trust the process as well. And a big part of that, as Susan said, it's really about relationships. When you guys read studies about what makes the best teacher over and over again, a high emotional IQ shows up near the top of the list. And so building those relationships, and not just to build those relationships and getting students to explain why they feel and how they feel, but then using those relationships to be able to also hold students accountable to a better version of themselves is important. So as part of my Teacher of the Year travels, I had the opportunity to go visit Grand Ledge Public Schools in Region 5. Definitely a different experience for me. And so one of the coolest things about going around is just being in spaces that I'm not used to being in. So coming from a small rural community to go to Grand Ledge, which is a much, much bigger district, to see the different things that they offer and some of the amazing things they're doing, and making sure that all students feel included, was definitely a pleasure. You know, my question coming from a bigger school was always, how do you get a community feel when there's thousands of students there? And Grand Ledge does a great job with that. I had the opportunity, the great pleasure last week of presenting at the Michigan Alternative Education Organization Conference in Traverse City. I had the opportunity to be the keynote speaker and do a couple breakout sessions. They had about 350 attendees this year, and they actually ran out of room and had to turn some away. So that was fantastic. I've been able to go to these conferences since the beginning of my teaching career when there was 80 and 90 and sometimes 120, and the next year sometimes 40. And so to see 350 alternative education teachers there looking to do the best job they can was amazing. As part of my travels as well, I think I've mentioned a couple times a trip out to Google in California. Unfortunately, when they're due, there's a little bit of lag time when I build these and we get to present them. So it was a couple months ago now, but it's been a great experience just connecting with Teachers of the Year all of the state of Michigan, and it really wasn't something that I was expecting to happen. And just in this meeting that we've had right here, I've gotten 15 messages from state Teachers of the Year talking about innovative things they're doing in their classrooms and sending pictures of some of the really cool things. And so to have a network like that and to be part of it has really truly been a gift. And Jennifer Roble and Shelby Lee have been amazing through the whole process and all of the travels, and making sure that we're set up with great experiences to help us grow and challenge us as teachers. And so we're very appreciative of them. I had the opportunity again to speak at Central Michigan University Teacher Candidate Conference, being an alumni. It was something again that was special for me, and we had, I believe, 7 of the 10 of our team there, which was amazing. When we're going around the state, you know, as teachers, sometimes we see new teachers coming out, and you know, I think with as many teachers have left the profession in the last decade, sometimes we question who's going to replace us and what's it going to look like. And the excitement that we're seeing of teachers coming out of these education programs are fantastic. And everyone that I've gone to, they're upping their game. They're doing a better and better job at serving their college students to make sure that we have better future teachers. And so probably one of the more fun events that Susan got to come with her school she graduated from is Wayne State. We got to go to the Educators Rising Conference, and it included students as young as junior high that were part of clubs that want to be future teachers. And it started with t-shirt cannons and confetti, and then I had to follow that up, which is kind of tough with junior high kids. But they were great, and the competitions the kids competed in And really, more than that, you just knew you were in a room full of future teachers because the kids who won were less excited than the kids around them for them. And it was just amazing to see them support each other in that way. And so I think the future definitely is bright for the future of education in the state of Michigan with our teachers coming. With that, does anybody have any questions for Susan or myself? Yeah, Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, first of all, for both of you. I completely agree with you about the safe issue, and I want every kid to feel safe. I want every teacher to feel safe. But there's something about a safe classroom or a safe environment that has always rubbed me the wrong way, because I think the best learning happens when you're a little bit uncomfortable. And so, I've never been able to put my finger on it, and you did it. Brave. That is perfect. I'm going to steal it. I'm going to use it. I do need your contact info so I can cite you every time I do. But that's really great. And I also appreciate the whole dialogue around restorative justice doesn't reference often enough where it comes from and how it's different from the kind of justice that a lot of us have grown up with. And I think especially in the schools that you've taught in, it's just such a logical and thoughtful way to approach things. It has more indigenous kinds of roots than the justice system that a lot of us are familiar with. So I think it's it's a lovely way to kind of build culture in a community and a school. So thank you for all that you're doing, and thank you, Corey.
And I would add, if I could, that if we do more restorative practices, we won't have to do restorative justice later on, so.
Okay, Dr. Pritchett?
Thank you for the presentation. When I was an assistant principal at a high school, we did restorative circles, but the student leaders would convene the circles if students were having conflicts or whatever throughout the school. Very dynamic process, especially when it's student to student, at that age anyways. So I commend you for that. I do believe that that's the right step in the right direction.
Thank you.
Mr. McMillan?
I guess, is there possibilities that if restorative justice is not implemented correctly, or even maybe if it is, that it ends up having violent students who really should be removed but remain in school instead of being removed?
Well, I think that's a misconception that restorative practice will eliminate the need to expel students because as a matter of fact, the legislature in the state of Michigan says that people will consider, schools and districts will consider restorative practices. So that does not mean that students cannot be expelled. And you can still use the practices in lieu of expulsion, because sometimes students, depending on their actions, they may need to be expelled. But the process is for them to understand the effects of their actions. And so it is used along with that, decision may still be made that a student is suspended or is expelled. But did you go through the process that restorative practices advocates for? And then if so, and it's still determined that that student needs to go, then the student needs to go. But they've gone through that process. They've had that fair process, that opportunity to voice their side of the story, to engage with the community, family members, whoever that might be part of the restorative circle. They've had that opportunity. And so I think that's what was important. If they go away from that session feeling that it was fair, there was fair process, then they can accept the consequences more easily, in my opinion.
In theory, if it's implemented correctly, things will go well, but I'm talking, it rarely things are implemented well or, perfectly, obviously. So I'm just saying that there can be situations where it's not implemented well and kids who really should be expelled are not.
This is true. That's always the case. But I think that more training is needed around it. I don't think, like I had been teaching for over 25 years before I learned about restorative practices, and I'm sure that there are many others that don't know anything about it, even though schools and districts are required to at least consider it. But if you don't know what it is, then how can you consider it? So I think that there needs to be more training around it. I was fortunate that the school that I worked at, Hope Academy, we were like a pilot school because we were authorized by Black Family Development, and they had partnered with the International Restorative Practices Institute, International Institute of Restorative Practices, IIRP. So they partnered with that organization, and they did a lot of training around it. So we had people at our school that were trainers. And so a lot of our professional development centered around restorative practices. I feel that I was fortunate to actually land at the school on the very first day that I started teaching there. I mean, that I became an employee of the district. We learned about restorative practices. So I think that if more schools did that, incorporated the professional development, because there are clear steps that need to be taken. I wouldn't consider myself as an expert on restorative practices. There are people that have PhDs in restorative practices, but they need to impart that information so that when decisions are made, people are making decisions based on sound knowledge and good practices.
Okay. Oh, Dr. Pugh?
Just an observation that I've made. I think we had a presentation recently, but then being in the schools during READ Awareness Month, I noticed where there are more like cubby holes, nice spaces where students are able to kind of like just check themselves out and check themselves back in when they're having a not so good day or a not so good time in the day. And I really appreciated seeing that and having the opportunity to talk to some of the people who administer or see that part of the day of the children and how that works. I was really impressed by that.
Awesome. Awesome. I think checking in is part of the group. It's a group activity also, because that's one of the purposes for us to get to know each other. Like, how can you build a relationship with people that you don't know? So, and we ought to be aware of what type of emotional state our students are in when they come into the classroom. So that gives them the opportunity to express that.
Ms. Lipton?
Thank you. Really, really great presentation. One of the things that I'm curious about is, I first learned about restorative practices used in the school-based setting probably about a decade ago. And to me, as a non-educator, it just seemed so powerful, so logical. And it also seemed like it would be sort of a foundational skill set for a child, particularly. I mean, it sounds like your school maybe even implements those priorities, maybe even in the elementary. I know you're a middle school teacher, but
Yes.
are you a K-8 school?
So yes,
Or-
we're preschool to 8th grade. Yes. Mhm.
And then you stop at 8th grade, you mentioned. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, it sounds like it's something that, the school community
Yes.
has sort of adopted, maybe even in the earliest grades, so that it's sort of something that is embedded in the culture that, like you said, the student can then take with them. So to me, it just seemed like such sort of an obvious and humane way of organizing a school. My question is, in your experience and yours as well, Mr. Rosser, what might be the obstacles from a school adopting it? Is it sort of, I don't know, administrative pushback, or is it just like you said, lack of knowledge, or parental pushback? I'm just sort of curious. Or do you need more staff, more helping professionals? In other words, what would make it easier for a district to sort of move in this direction?
I think for me, the biggest obstacle I view is, one of the greatest strengths of school is you have all the different personalities that make up your teaching staff. And with that, you get people who have a different view of things, right? And so being able to consistently use it and enforce it throughout your district can be tough because people have different personalities. And I think that kind of alludes to what Mr. McMillan said is, in theory, is it great? Yes, in practice, what are some obstacles? That's an obstacle because we have different personalities trying to implement it in the same way. And so that can be tough sometimes to have uniformity.
And I would add that, well, I will say that initially when I first came to the school and I began to learn about restorative practice, we didn't have a complete buy-in. There were staff members that didn't feel it would be effective, or maybe they feel like we have enough um, disciplinary procedures. We didn't need another thing to learn. But I found that it was something that I could implement right away. And I said before, I could resonate with this because it's based in African culture, it's based in indigenous culture, it's based in early childhood development, and all things that I have been a part of. So for me, it was a natural fit and something that I felt that I could implement. And we had a lot of support. So every year we received this professional development. Throughout the year we received it. And there was still some pushback. But I think over time, looking at the successes of other teachers that implement it, part of it is built into the disciplinary policies. So when students are disciplined for classroom disruptions, they're asked these restorative questions to consider them and think about them. And they're required to come back and report, okay, what are you going to do differently now? All of those things that are part of the restorative questioning techniques and strategies. So it's embedded in the school culture now. And I think over time, staff have come to see the importance of it and the benefits of it, and then have been able to adapt to some other practices. But are they all required? Well, some of them are, some of us do it more than others. I'm just one that believes that the consistency of doing it year after year and is what makes it successful. Then I have students that maybe started in the third or fourth grade. And so if they're implementing in those grade levels, then when they get to middle school, it's easier for me to incorporate those things in my classroom. So
Well,
I hope that answered your question.
Well, thank you very much. I know at a local level, we implement it on a high level as well as a superintendent. And so appreciate the work you're doing and congratulations and go Wayne State Warriors.
Warriors.
All right. The time is now 12:07, and again, according to the board as president, board members have previously received a copy of pending litigation, namely NW and NW minors by TH versus Whitmer et al. The State Board of Education has the time scheduled for guidance from and discussion with legal counsel regarding this pending litigation. Pursuant to MCL 15.2681H of the Open Meetings Act, a public body can go into closed session to consider material exempt from discussion or disclosure by state or federal statute. In this case, to be able to consider legal guidance subject to attorney-client privilege and exempt from disclosure under MCL 15.2431G of the Freedom of Information Act. I will now entertain a motion to convene a closed session followed by a roll call, please. Dr. Robinson, second, Ms. Lipton.
Discuss it.
I'm sorry?
I'd like to discuss it. Are we
Discuss?
discussing it?
Okay.
Yeah. I just want to make very clear that this pending lawsuit and these very important conversations about Michigan's public education system, particularly students in Detroit, should not be happening behind closed doors. Those members participating in closed session instead of choosing to have these conversations in the open are helping to violate the spirit of the Open Meetings Act. I believe in accountability. I will continue to recuse myself from votes and conversations that happen behind closed doors that should be made public. Thank you.
Dr. Pugh?
It needs to be noted for the record that we do not take votes behind closed doors or in closed session.
That's fine. These conversations should be open to the public.
Senator Bullock?
Just for practical purposes, the court case will be public.
The conversations we have regarding the pending lawsuit should be made public.
We are following the law and working closely with Ms. Harris in the Attorney General's office. So All right, Ms. Evans?
Bullock,
Yes.
Lipton,
Yes.
McMillan,
Yes.
Pritchett,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Snyder. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to the same room, right?
Yes.
Thank you.